Okay,
Here it is.
just to let you know. Okay. There you go. Demonstrate, right? You got touch. Then you have words of affirmation.
Honey, you did such a good job with the house yesterday. I really do appreciate that.
Right, right? Then you have deeds.
Wow, thank you so much for taking out the trash. I appreciate that.
Now the difference between the two is thank you being the words of affirmation, right? And then also saying, because you did something that was important to me, right? Here's something that I appreciate and I acknowledge that moment, right? Because it wasn't about you, it was about me. And I appreciate you acknowledging that. So we did touch, right? We did words of affirmation. We did deeds, right? Then we have gifts. What about gifts?
Gifts. My mind went somewhere else when you talk about marriage and gifts. I don't know.
Shoes.
No.
What about those shoes I just bought you? You didn't like those shoes? You didn't like? Oh, see, that's what I'm talking. That's why don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. We'll talk later. Can we get an example of gifts?
You know, gifts get higher as you're in marriage longer. Amen. Everybody knows that. At the beginning, of course, I've always liked to buy gifts for my wife, and she appreciates that. My wife is not the receiver of gifts, but some are. They have that where they like to receive gifts, and they would do anything for you to receive those gifts. That's the gift that he's talking about, the 5 love languages. So when I do buy gifts for my wife, in return, I get a whole lot more. Amen. It works both ways.
Tell them that last big give you this boy speak up.
Okay, real quick. I wanted to buy something really nice for my wife. 27 years we've been married. And I said, what is it that I can get her that when I die, she doesn't have to go buy it without me? So I bought her a Mercedes-Benz.
Now, we understand that's a gift that just a couple of us can actually do. We do know that was a very poor example. So, very poor example. That was, let me just go ahead and dust off his collar because he's, you know, I bought her a Benz, just drops my. Anyway, for the rest of us humans, right? Anyway, but gifts are important. And then we have the last of the love languages, quality time.
Quality time. It is so important that you spend time together, away from the children, away from work, away from ministry. It is extremely important. One of the things, if I can just add, one of the things when he talked about communication, one of the things that I just absolutely love, and I think it's a cuss word amongst us, is understanding. Sometimes we can have the communication, and thank you for the wonderful gifts, but we don't have understanding. And I think that when you spend quality time together, you get to talk to one another, and not just talk, but really understand each other. Is that good?
Yeah.
That's great. So again, we have quality time, right? You have touch, right? You have gifts, words of affirmation, right? What was the 5th one? Deeds. I just wanted to make sure someone was paying attention, right? The 5 love languages. The reason why that's so important is because when you are communicating, you need to know what love language your partner actually speaks. You need to tune in. It's just like the radio.
That's right.
You need to tune in, and that's the way you must show love. The Serranos, they talk about covenant love, covenant marriages. And it's about love, is about making sure that you demonstrate it in their language, not yours, right? So often men, we say, you know I love you. No, they don't know you love them. They heard you say it, but the knowing through their heart is something else.
That's right, that's right.
So be clear in your communication language. Be very clear that you're speaking their language, not speaking yours to them, right? Because that's when you need us. We're interpreters.
Wow. That was, you said something that rings so very loud. I'm divorced. Thank you, Lord, for all the years. But I am so grateful to have been married for 18 years and to have grown and to have learned a lot of things. And one of the things that you said was just phenomenal to me. When you say, I love you, sometimes we are so dead set on loving someone the way we want to love them, but not loving them the way they need to be loved. And it is very, very important that we, again, make sure that you know your partner, get to know them, get to know what they like, every intricate detail about them, what makes them cry, what makes them, I mean, all the things. So I think that, I like you. You're all right.
Awesome. Wow. So we're talking about love, we're talking about family, and we're talking about marriages. Well, you can't talk about family and love and marriages without knowing where it came from. It was instituted by God. And so we need to understand that, because that's where our foundation comes. And that's the foundation that we want to build this thing called marriage upon. Right, honey?
Okay, real quick, I'm writing a book that's called The Marriage Corporation. And I just want to talk about, because you need qualifications in your marriage, amen? Just like a resume when you find a job, okay? You find a job, you have to have those right qualifications for the job. It's the same as marriage. If you don't have the qualifications for the job, then you have to go get trained for your marriage, amen? Successful marriage looks like this. You work hard, you deny yourself, okay? Just like a successful business person, okay? That person puts the time in. If you don't put the time in, then you don't get what you're putting in. If you put the time in, you get out what you're putting in. So you have to really communicate on those bases.
Okay, but marriage is, I'm not happy, you're supposed to make me happy. Is that what marriage is? I'm not happy, make me happy.
Marriage develops into what you want it to look like. Okay, so you have to be happy before you make somebody else happy. Amen. It depends on you and how you respond to your relationship with your spouse.
Wow, with that said, yeah, that deserves that, because I think a lot of times we have the misconception and perception that I'm looking for you to give me what I don't have. And that's not it, because we all come with our own individual baggage and isms and schisms in our relationships. And so we need to understand that you need to come whole. Women, don't wait for a man to make you whole. Men, don't wait for a woman to make you whole. I don't want a half a man, and I know he don't want a half a woman. He wants a whole woman. So we want to come in our wholeness, understanding that when God made me, he made something beautiful. And I got that from a wonderful woman. Hallelujah. So we need to understand who we are before we can get into a thing called relationship and marriage.
And with that said, understanding who you are, one of the things that I absolutely positively do to myself, with myself every day, is I look in the mirror at myself and I tell myself how wonderful I am. See, you can get in a relationship and you can, we fake the funk sometimes and really not know who you are, and then the person that you're with, they don't know who you are. You gotta know who you are. You gotta know your worth. You gotta know your value. You gotta tell yourself, if nobody else tells you how wonderful you are, you gotta tell yourself how wonderful you are. Because at the end of the day, honestly, when I lay my head down, I want to be happy with who I am.
Amen to that. Amen to that, right? There's one more thing I would like to add to that, is that you should also say to yourself, you're a work in progress, right? That's important. I talk about the SCI approach, SCI, right? The spirit of continuous improvement. And as long as you're in the spirit of continuous improvement, then you're open for suggestions, right? And again, your actions, your behavior can indicate whether or not you're really sold in to that relationship. I say sold in, not sold in, but sold in, interwoven. Okay, that's very important. But if you don't have the spirit of continuous improvement, what that means is, it's like buying a lemon. Like, buy this car as is, no questions. Right? And we say, well, this is who I am. Well, if that's who you are, then you're dead, aren't you? You cease to grow, you cease to live. So, with all that being said, are there any questions, any general questions? We do have some kids there. Are there any general questions perhaps we can answer? Any questions at all? You have a question? Absolutely. Great, hold on.
So today we're talking about success within marriage. We're gonna get to you in one moment. In order to have success in marriage, you have to be willing. Like he said, it's not all about you. So it's not about take, it's about the give. As Richard said earlier, when you give, it's going to come back. But if you don't give anything, what's coming back to you? Nothing. Nothing is going to come back.
And before we take these questions, first of all, could you please celebrate our wonderful presenters? This was masterful. Real talk, right?
Yes,
Jonathan West, Pastor Dana Devine, Nefertina, and Richard Serrano. Mr. West, I know this is something that you already have in your mind, okay? I know it's already there, so I'm getting ready to manifest it. We want you to be able to give our wonderful participants for this segment an excellent affirmation. What words can you give them to repeat after you for the new affirmation over their lives when it comes to communications and building healthy relationships?
Ooh, okay. That was right off the top, huh? You want something? I got the music genius here. You want me to do something impromptu, right? We're in a circle right now. Okay, all right. So I would say if there was anything that you would repeat to yourself, is to look at yourself and say, I am enough. I am a work in progress. And I will continue to get better.
Continue to get better.
That's it.
Because you said enough. So let me just say this, enough. Everything operates under God's hand. When you talk about I am enough. When you say that, you say, God, everything about me is operating under your hand. So when it comes to myself, I say to myself, I am enough. Everything now operates under God's hand. Enough. Y'all know how to spell it, right? Everything now operates under God's hand. I am enough.
Wow, that's awesome. I am enough. Wow. Well, understanding that, we need to understand that we have a God that loves us more than enough. All right? He loves us more than enough. And therefore, we can be all that he says that we are. So, in that, we talk about, my husband and I deal with togetherness, unity. And in marriage and family, you gotta work together. So, we have an acronym, but it's WRO. W-A-O, I apologize, wow. W-A-O, we are one. Yeah. We are one. And so you need to understand that how can two walk together unless they be agreed? We can't do this thing called marriage if you're walking in division. You gotta walk in succession. You gotta walk in unity. You gotta walk together. You gotta stand together, because a house divided against itself cannot stand.
That's right.
Yes. Wow. I can stay there for an hour. Let me take y'all home. Now, we have our first question in the house. Yes, sir. Excuse me.
So, do you accept each other's flaws, or do you try to change them?
Is that for covenant marriages?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I got you.
At the very beginning, because we don't know, I'm Hispanic, African American, two different cultures, two different ways. So she has to accept a lot of things that are different. And I have to accept things that are different because of how she was raised. So it's a lot with that. Working in progress. We're still working in progress. 27 years, been together 29 years. you know, you have to still deny yourself. You have to, and I've always said this to a lot of the men. Talk to yourself more than you listen to yourself. Because if we start talking to ourselves more than we listen to ourselves, then you're able to think clearly on how you react to certain things. To answer your question, yes, we do try to do that. We really do in a relationship because we think it's the right thing to do. Because men want to fix the problem. That's what we want to do. But we're not there to fix the problem. We're there to just help one another in our relationship to get better. So we just learn to really get along and take those differences and blend and mix with those differences and make it the best one that we can be.
I see you guys. You itching. I see you itching. One more question? Yes. Could you come up, please? Thank you. Who's it for? Okay, so Pat, since you itching, you want to...
So, one thing that stands out to me, particularly in communities of color, is the long-term violence and trauma that we've experienced. And so when you talk about language and love language, the thing that comes to my mind based on my family history is aggression. And so how do you translate that language that's not necessarily studied, talked about in our community, and translate that into something very different?
Okay. So how do you translate what we talked about, right, into something that applies to your life, right? So what we're talking about now is a contextualized approach. You're talking about taking the words that we have, right, and put it within the context of your life so that you can apply it. The first thing that you do is you think about the source of the communication, right? Who is it coming from? Second thing you think about is who's the audience, right? Who's the intended audience? The third is, what does the outcome need to be? When you're thinking about the outcome of this communication, it now is going to govern how you communicate, okay? So for instance, if we're talking about matters of aggression, how we communicate with one another, can you come here? So in a family, right? I'm apologizing ahead of time, but what's your name? Keith. What's going on, Keith? How you doing, man? Listen, we need to talk. Right? That's what gets things started, right?
You all right, Keith?
Keith's fine. Keith's cool. You got it. Now, here's another way that I can still get Keith's attention. Keith, I have something really important I need to talk to you about. You can budget a couple minutes, because I can budget a couple minutes. All right, let's go. You understand? Same thing, different outcome, right? Because now when I need to communicate with him, he's too busy thinking about that arm that was around his neck, right? And then after that, he's gonna have some things to say that's not gonna make me, because I'm not in control of my, right? And then I'm gonna respond, and now we're somewhere else. So in situations, thank you very much. In situations when it comes to aggression, please don't sue me, I'm sorry, I gotta stop that. But in situations when we talk about aggression, right? You talked a little bit earlier about talking to yourself more than listening to yourself. The technical term for that is a metacognitive approach. A metacognitive approach is looking at how you typically respond when it comes to certain situations, okay? And so if I know that the scene is an aggressive scene, then I need to first take ownership of how I'm going to de-escalate it, which means I have to change my actions first, as opposed to thinking about, oh, they're going to do X, Y, Z. They're going to do that because you press those buttons. So press different buttons.
So the one thing that comes to mind is every action does not deserve an equal reaction. The other thing that comes to mind, because I'm listening to what everyone is saying, and then based on what you were asking, love is something that we don't show as much as we should. The Bible says that love covereth a multitude. Whenever you're talking about love covering something, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to cover her face. But what it says is I'm going to pay attention to everything that's going on with her. if we as a community start paying attention to more things that are not ourselves, if you will, and that are our culture and other people. Sometimes, and I said this the other week, that we can be such, not you all, but you know people, can be such a selfish culture. That it's always about me and what I want and what I should do and this, that, and the third. And sometimes if we just take a step back and look at our sister or our brother to see what their need is, that's where love comes in. That's when I can cover them. So I can cover whatever their flaws are, whatever they're going through, and I don't have to, as my children say, put them out on Front Street. If we did that more, I think that we would see less of the aggression, less of the violence, less of that. And then on top of that, we need to lift one another up. If we continue to lift one another up, lift, L-I-F-T, and we're done, lift, L-I-F-T, let influence forge truth. Sometimes we need to be a great influence. Can my life be an influence that it can change somebody else's life? All right.
The relationship stage. And now. Thank you everyone. Autographs and phone numbers to the side. I'm going to give you 1 minute to get their cards. Pull your cards out really quickly while we transition the stage. Thank you so much, Donovan West, Pastor Dana Divine.